Well, hello once again, everybody. So, purpose of this video is to just kind of have like a listening playthrough party teaser. I'm not going to play every single track all the way through, obviously, just segments of things. And also to explain what's going on with the record, the thought process, the aesthetic, the ideals, what I'm using, how I'm using it, what I was going for, who's playing on it, so on and so forth. So yeah, it is on Bandcamp right now. It's live. And we'll put a link in the description and the pinned comment of the video. So, yep, let's jump over to that page. Alright, so here we go. Basically, I just wanted to go through every track and talk a little bit about it. Maybe play an excerpt that I think is interesting from it. That kind of a deal. So, yeah, this first tune, Shroomtown Overlords, I'm gonna wait until someone asks me about it, what the title is referenced to. It's kind of an interesting story, but I don't want to go into too much depth here. I will just say that with this particular track, that is this one. There's a couple of songs on here. This one I do keyboard, like this kind of keyboard controller. Like I do a solo in there, and I'm comping with that. I'm actually stacking keyboard, comping, and guitar together to make these different kinds of voicings, but like thicker voicings. But there's a legit keyboard solo. None of this stuff on this record was sequenced. It was played in real time into the DAW with the click tracks, and I kind of like on the spot was coming up with these like arpeggiated runs and things like that with the keyboard. But I wanted to simulate like a keyboard stack, you know, like having like 3 or 4. So you know, I'll start off with this thing. It's kind of like a piano Rhodes organ, and it goes into a piano patch up an octave. Then it's like a synth lead on top of that that I go to with the other stuff stacked into it, and then I take that off and then go back to just like the piano Rhodes type stack, where I'm playing these little suspended type chords, and then there's a guitar solo right after that. And then, of course, the drums, too. I was really proud of the drum performance here, because it's, I wrote this song a long time ago, but I never really found anybody that could play the drum part the way I was hearing it. I finally got it with this. And it's kind of the Dave Weckl deal, where you're playing like a fusion beat, but you're playing the melody, too, along with the melody, like and that's on the opening riff. So the, you know, dum da dum da 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 dum bow bow dum da 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 dum ba dum da da da. So that's I wanted it to be continuous, like the, you know, the typical LA fusion style, right? Like where you're playing along with the groove, but you're also playing the melody. And so let's check that out. A little piece of that first. Little intro. So I am doing that on a finger drum controller, obviously, but yeah, so that's the kind of thing. So that in and of itself is almost like a drum feature. They have a little drum intro that then onto the regular groove. You do the intro riff as part of the melody, and then the proper melody after that, but with the same chord progression under it. So it's kind of neat. Blah blah blah. Long story short, then we're on to a keyboard solo. Okay, I should probably explain this. So, a lot of times I will write an opening track like Nighttime on Electric Duality or this, and the very first song has kind of a hard driving, kind of cool, slightly aggressive quality to it. That of course was the James Bond chord, as you want to, however you want to look at that. But I'm kind of it's sort of a thing. Like I tend to write an instrumental James Bond type fusion tune chart for a lot of these electric albums, just because I want an intro tune experience to have some similar kind of cinematic opening quality to it, because that just works for whatever reason. But that, and then I got this idea while I was doing this up into it. I actually recorded the keyboard part first to a click track, and I get this idea to arpeggiate that entire chord on piano. So it was like, but then that was like later on in this sequence where the pad hits and comes in, right? The synth pad comes in, and then I ended up playing the same thing on guitar before that later. Sort of a weird chain of events. So yeah, kind of your typical neat intro sequence with the solos. I didn't want to overdo it too much, but the keyboard section, I was watching a lot of Joe Zawinul with Weather Report and Joe Zawinul Syndicate leading up to finishing this record, so probably influenced on that end by Joey Z. Yeah, so this tune is pretty much all, it's what it is, just pretty much like keyboards for the chords, except for the other clean guitar under the main melody sections. But some of the other tunes, I kind of, I used my analog and built up clean sounds as the keyboard on a lot of the other songs, or like go between the two. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of a play on the title of the album, Parallel Future, has to do a little bit with that, going back to using synths and guitar sounds as the bed of the sound again. But I want to be able to do them simultaneously in a live setting, obviously. But yeah, and it's kind of like anthemic when it comes back into the melody after that guitar solo. But this next one, I got Chris to play sax on it. And I have him playing sax on this one, True Story and Master Plan. So it's tenor on the first two and soprano on Master Plan. This whole beginning section, I mean, I only used a keyboard on this one as the intro to the keyboard solo, where I play a lot of sustain pedal, altered kind of substitution harmonies, big harp rips, glissandi or whatever, you know. And then I go into, I use the clean jazz box type sound that I have, which is very lush in itself. And it's kind of like my substitution Rhodes piano, if that makes any sense, because it has a similar kind of a sonic quality with the way I have everything set up. And even that, though, I have a parallel synth channel running on that track to the guitar, and that's like a weird oscillator. And then sometimes what I would do is I will duplicate the clean guitar, and I will tune it up an octave and then pull it down like 21 or 22 decibels, so you barely hear it. But it has a very similar sonic space as like a Rhodes. But the intro section is like a chord melody type deal that's done with two sounds predominantly. It's a polyphonic distortion, which is like a stratty kind of a thing. Every string has its own signal chain distortion box, so they harmonize. And then I also have sometimes stacking with that, or after that, it's like an analog synth. It's like a brassy, mellow brassy kind of a patch that I wrote. Anyway, let's check a little bit of this out. Yeah, so then I added another little analog synth thing on the guitar. I could actually do all of this stuff live. I mean, it's just having two instruments, or two or three in this particular case. I probably would need four. But typical zonal kind of setup, but only using guitars too. But half guitars, half keyboards or Zetar controllers or something like that, Yeah, and then we do. So I should probably mention the aesthetic that I have with this thing is basically like, I'm going for like quartet, quintet type of a sound. So one of the reasons why I don't do bass solos is because I work with amazing bass players like Jimmy Haslip. But also it's just like I'm not a bass player, so it's not like really my voice is not on that instrument as much. I'm more of like some kind of weird keyboard player / guitar player or something. So or a drummer, a finger drummer. So like a lot of times when I want to do a solo, it's on one of those instruments as opposed to bass. It's not that I don't like bass solos. It's just like, I would just do a solo on my main instrument or something if I really wanted to do one. But there is a crazy guitar solo after this, and I do want to play some of this. But I wanted to be able to go over some of the other stuff. I might just do some teaser stuff with these solos, because a lot of the really crazy cool stuff is solo wise is in this song Stuck in the Future, or Back in the Old Country has some cool stuff in it too, but kind of at a more deliberate pace. The stuff that's in Stuck in the Future is just like more virtuosic type stuff, even though maybe this track has some virtuosic playing on it. That one really dips into it a little more. I should mention right there, underneath that guitar it sounds like a Rhodes piano, but it's actually a guitar. It's my clean jazz sound on the bridge pickup with a little tremolo added to it. And it's surprising how much that sounds like a Rhodes piano. But yeah. If you're not paying attention, you might not even realize it's a guitar. Yeah, so a lot of that stuff obviously is that more of the Andean fusion type influence with the really fast, crazy rhythms on the lead guitar. And I tend to do that, if I'm playing, if I know I'm going to be doing like keyboard solos, guitar solos, I tend to make the guitar solos be more notey, and then the keyboard solos, I'll just have be more melodic, or some other interesting ideas polyphonically or something. Because why would you not want to do that? That way, if you're playing both instruments anyway. And then there's a really cool drum solo too in this. I should probably play a little bit of. Yeah. So, probably the track everybody's interested to hear me talk about is Not the End of the World. And, Alan Holdsworth's bass player, one of Alan Holdsworth's bass players, Yellow Jackets, Mike Stern, Jimmy Haslip is on this track. And did a wonderful job, too. Really, I feel like adds a lot of melodicism and depth to the situation I have going with I have mostly like 2 guitar tracks running throughout it, and then he doubles like parts of the melody and stuff and adds some stuff that I didn't really think about doing, and the tone he's getting is good, it's nice, but of note, of course, is that what I ended up doing is taking out all the backing for the solo section. And I decided to do kind of my electric fusion Western pedal steel type sound for the solo in this. So it's kind of enigmatic sounding. Like I can play all this polyphonic stuff, but also do all these crazy bends. And it's got like a very melodious, sad kind of quality to it, which goes pretty good on a ballad like tune, right? You definitely don't want to miss that. And you know what? I'll play a little piece of this, but I don't think I'm gonna let you experience that for yourself. You're gonna have to go check out the whole thing on Bandcamp to just hear the entirety of that. Yep. So that one's definitely one to not miss. Very powerful kind of a song, actually, I feel like. But let's keep on going. I've already made this video way too long as it is, but I wanted to explain some of the stuff going on here, because there's kind of a lot going on, like aesthetically and otherwise. I just wanted to explain. So this one, yeah, I guess very much influenced by like maybe like a Chick Corea electric band type of a thing. And in fact, the guitar solo, not the keyboard solo sections, but the second solo section with the lead guitar, I'm even doing some stuff it sounds like sweep picking in the latter part of the solo, and I was listening back to it because I forgot that I even did that. And I'm like, I know I was tapping or something, but I'm like, geez, it really does sound like a bunch of sweep picking licks, but I don't think that it is. I don't remember if I did or not, but I'm pretty sure it was tapping. But this is, got an interesting one of those eclectic style melodies on it. And then we go into like an altered blues with a bunch of suspension chords. But the idea behind that is that you're not just playing regular blues and notes. You play some outside stuff with some extended harmony, diminished stuff, for example, or play on the suspended chords, which go down in whole steps in the latter part of the chord progression. But that again here, the keyboard solo section, that's my clean guitar sounds. That seemed to work perfectly for this for whatever reason. And I intersperse the analog synth guitar patch that I have, so it's kind of like you're playing like a keyboard stack of guitars, which is something that I could do too if I have the equipment to do it live. But anyway, this is one of the hip fusion charts that all the kids were talking about. See, that's like roughly occupying the same kind of sonic space as like a Rhodes piano. It just has like a different EQ kind of a profile because it's a guitar. But yeah, and I don't have to mention who the influence is on that, do I? Probably. And yeah, maybe there's a little bit of a George Duke influence too going on with all of this. it you know, you can kind of maybe hear some of that cutting through. But yeah, and then we're on to I'm not going to play the whole thing obviously here, but some key moments that I kind of find interesting there. Let's see if we can get. Yeah, so you know, it's one of those things where the head is like the bookends type of a tune. A lot of pieces are like that, of course, but that's just song structure stuff. Occasionally, I will write through composed pieces, but it's it's just not always the most accessible stuff to do it that way. But moving on, so. This next tune really turned out nice. It's kind of like a East Coast straight ahead jazz / fusion ballad. And there are 3 ballads on this record. I'm not going to play bits from every single song here. I just want to play like the head. I end up doing like more of a two-handed type clean guitar solo first, and then moved on to more of like a Holdsworth clean lush backing and a lead on top of that to give it more of a move from like old school to electric school, like newer electric school type feel, but still having that East Coast jazz sort of underpinning and running through the entire piece. So anyway, let's check a little bit of that out. Nice, nice. I'm not talking about my own music, but I mean, I am kind of proud about how this turned out. And it was done, these tunes were not written all at once, obviously. I think maybe the last one I actually wrote, and this was the next track, Back in the Old Country. And the idea behind this was, I was watching a Chick Corea keyboard workshop video, and he was playing this Latin jazz tune where you have like a bass line, like this alternating root 5, root 5, root 5 type figure. And I ended up playing around with that in a different key, and I ended up coming up with this thing. And it's at first it was like this sounds like vaudevillian Eastern European music that you'd hear at the corner cafe or something like that, you know. And then I wrote a head for it that has this weird chord melody, like a chromatic chord melody type shifting thing, with some odd chords. And then that was it for the YouTube video. But then for this album, I wanted to orchestrate it, so I added piano, bass, and strings, and a bunch of different guitars. So I prominently feature the clean guitar here, but also the polyphonic distortion is like the main star of the show, because it comes in and I'm playing. It's kind of like classical funk fusion blues or something, but with like an Eastern European alternate reality thing happening. And again, the polyphonic distortion, it allows me to play like multiple notes, and they harmonize with an overdriven sound as opposed to mushing together like you would typically hear. I should also mention that this has like a Bela Bartok type influence on it. Also, the main section, but also that weird chord you hear. I was watching some video where this guy was talking about the Beast chord from Concerto for Orchestra or something, and I just took that Bela Bartok chord and integrated it straight into the piece, and then everything just coalesced, and it sort of sounds. I mean, you know, it has that kind of quality to it. This is not like normal jazz by any stretch, right? But I'm going to go forward a little bit, and I'm going to demonstrate a little bit of the poly distortion solo section. Because I did orchestrate too in this, where there's a clean guitar, poly distortion are trading off and kind of playing complementary parts, kind of like a more orchestrated piece would be. That's what's interesting about this. It's sort of similar, I guess, maybe to like Ravel Bolero or something like that, but more improvisational, obviously. It occupies a strange, like, third stream jazz space. But you'll definitely want to check that entire track out there. Really just hypnotic kind of stuff. After like, even though it's like 8 minutes long, it just kind of goes by like that. This tune Master Plan was the first one I wrote with this Novation 49 key controller that I got. This is a pretty interesting tune. Chris is playing soprano parts on this. I do really kind of an interesting keyboard solo in that, and then also a guitar solo. Kind of more like open Gary Husband type drum parts underneath the guitar solo too. And then this tune, Damaged Goods. So I'm gonna explain this, but I wanted to do a piano intro for this tune and then kind of go fully electric. And so that's what I did. And the main melody section after the piano drops out is like 3 guitars. So it's my kind of lush, clean pad type thing with all the multiple delays on it. And then I have like a clean jazz type sound, and then I have a polyphonic distortion, and they all blend together to make this big, huge sound. So we have that. And then the clean guitar takes the place of the piano for the main little intro melody sections afterwards. Then the solos, I went back to the same format that I had in True Story. So the only difference is that I'm using the poly distortion instead of the clean. So like it's not multiple guitars, it's just one guitar. And it's all fingerstyle. I'm just playing like a lot of different polyphonic ideas, like kind of a pseudo classical way. It's another thing that I do oftentimes with the polyphonic distortion. It doesn't really work with other sounds, but it does on that. And I still get like a big sound and approach that's more harmonic without getting distorted. Then of course I go into a conventional lead solo after that with more of a chordal backing from the lusher clean sounds. But I'm going to play a little bit of the intro, piano intro, and then also up into the melody section a little bit where the other guitars kick in. Just go ahead and turn off my mic. So yeah, that's the poly distortion. It lets me harmonize all that stuff, kind of like Brian May or something, but in real time with one guitar. Yeah, and then the last track on this album is Noir, and yeah, I wrote this tune in a video, like I hit record and started brainstorming ideas, and then edited down my entire brainstorming session, and then finished the song, and then did a video for that song too. But this is a totally different version. I redid all the solos, re-EQ'd everything, added extra percussion. What else did I do? I did a bunch of stuff to it. Now, Jimmy has expressed interest in doing this track too, so I'm expecting maybe at some point I might add track 10, like maybe like Noir bass version, and I'm hoping to have him just play a ton of stuff all over this tune, and I'll probably remix the whole thing. Like I may take some stuff out, replace some of my parts with other things or whatever. We'll see how it goes, but let's play a little bit of this. Mute mic. So again, that's the two-handed jazz clean kind of Rhodes-ish sound I'm dialing in a little bit. Then this guitar, this song has one of the more interesting guitar solos, I feel like, especially the ending of it. This is like a first take solo too. I just like hit record and and then afterwards I was like, maybe I should replace it, and I keep listening to it. I'm like, nah, I don't really think so. Let's just leave it, So let's check out that. Yep, then it rounds itself out with a drum solo over a variation on the main melody in kind of an ostinato-ish format. And that's it. Again, I probably will be adding a track 10 here at some point. Not sure how that gets alerted through the Bandcamp mailing system, but be on the lookout for that. So I'll probably release a video about it or something, or a post or two about that. But yeah, definitely go check out this album. It's on Bandcamp. I'm going to put a link in the description and probably the pinned comment of this video. And yeah, I'm fairly proud of it. Got a couple of guests, including, legendary bassist Jimmy Haslip. It's worth a listen, I feel like. But anyway, hope you've enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and of course, I'll catch you on the next one.